Hey man, it's Dukes and Bill. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Yesterday was interesting to hear Matt Ryan and Kevin Stefanski in their opening press conference introduce Kevin as the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Ironically, as we start this today, this is behind the curtain. We just got word that Todd Monken is taking the Cleveland job. Now we've been banging the drum, asking you guys why does nobody want that job. A lot of coaches took themselves out of the running. Monken allegedly was going to be the Giants OC with Harbaugh. But again, when you get offered these coaching jobs, you end up taking them. I don't know what that's going to look like, Mike. I know we'll dive a little bit more into this, but as we start this, I just mentioned this to you guys. So you go from Lamar Jackson, who at the end you said you did not have a great relationship with, to Shador Sanders, who is already a pop star, right? Who's already a brand, and everybody in Cleveland wants him to succeed. I'm just curious how Todd Monken's going to handle this. And Mike, I think it was you a couple of weeks back who mentioned he didn't have a great relationship with Stetson Bennett when he was at Georgia.
No, I mean, this is a guy who's kind of a hard ass. And, for all the fans here that, for whatever reason, have adopted Shador Sanders as their second favorite quarterback, good luck. Because if you thought Stefanski somehow did him wrong, which he didn't, don't let facts get in the way if you're anybody on ESPN. This is a guy that explosive article that came out the last few weeks of the season in Baltimore about a dysfunction in the quarterback room. The coach has to be the go-between, or does Harbaugh not get along with Lamar? Does Monken not get along? Lamar and Monken apparently weren't laughing at the same jokes, Carl. Monken admitted he needed to do a better job of communicating. And this is the guy that you hire to be your head coach. So to Oren's point, they're losing their minds. We were talking before the show. They're losing their minds right now in Cleveland. Uncompelling hire.
It is. And look, the way things have gone there, he'll be there 2 years. Right? You're about to get from underneath the Deshaun contract. You're about to be able to finally get to a point where if you want to move on from that, you can. So that's not going to hamper you anymore. And then, obviously over the last few years, you've gotten some draft picks back. Like this organization will look different in a couple of years, but maybe this is the fill-in gap, Mike, the fill-in guy until you figure out, hey, this is where we want to go, and we know who our franchise quarterback is, and now we can really start building towards it. All right, let's talk about our situation with Matt and Kevin Stefanski. Guys, what'd you think yesterday? Dede, after all was said and done, what was your final thoughts on what you got yesterday?
He pretty much said what I thought he would say, and what I feel like fans have to realize is like we're just gonna have to wait and see what this thing what it looks like. I am interested to see how the offense is going to function with Tommy Rees as the play caller. I think that was probably the one thing that probably drew the most attention yesterday out of the press conference is him saying that he would not Stefanski, that is, not be the play caller, that Tommy Rees indeed would be the play caller. And, I go back to what I said last week, I think it was, where I said, I'm not mad at his decision on that because of the fact of I'd rather him bring in someone that he's already got a working relationship with and has some trust in making that decision versus him going to find or the team organization going to find someone from the outside to bring in, and these two having to work towards being on the same page. Him and Reese, for the most part, should already be on the same page. Now it's just going to be a matter of once the GM gets in place, how they address what they want to do at the quarterback situation. Do they want to go out there and find someone as a backup, in the event that Michael Penix Jr. is not able to start right away, or do they sit down at the table with Kirk Cousins, try to figure out if they're able to bring him back? We know that's going to be expensive, but I think once they get that figured out, look, man, let's sit back, rock and roll. Overall, I was impressed with Stefanski, though.
Yeah. What'd you think, man? Overall, what'd you get from yesterday?
Sounds like a guy who was relieved to be here just from the jump. Just a guy who is someplace that he's happy to be. He feels comfortable. Just there was a vibe I got from him more than anything was just relief and optimism. And those two things off the jump make me feel a little bit more comfortable about the hire than I was before. I was good with it before, but I'm a little bit better with it now just because you have a guy who genuinely wanted to be here, and you heard him talk about how much he respected Arthur Blank, how much he respected Matt Ryan, and how eager he was to get to working with the organization. You heard him talk about how excited he was to work with Bijan. You heard him talking about the young defenders that we got too. So just a guy who, by all accounts, is just is just happy and ready to go to work here. And more than anything right now, I think Falcons fans needed that too, just to have a guy here who was happy and ready to go to work.
Yeah,
and Carl,
go ahead.
just
Go
real
ahead,
quick to
man.
double down on what the guys are saying. It wasn't like Raheem came out and sounded like he was full of crap. It's a different energy with Stefanski. You know, Raheem probably said some of the same things Stefanski said, but you got the impression just from his resume that, you know, they wanted somebody with more experience. And I don't know, just my spidey sense says there were some things that were missed the last couple of years. And going back to Arthur Smith too, because Arthur Smith was terrible at clock management, if we're honest. That won't happen with Stefanski. That the basic, pardon the pun, because it's football, blocking and tackling will be taken care of.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, what you sense there is a guy probably coming out of a real crappy situation, right? And he's coming. It's always nice to be wanted. And he's going to a place where Matt is like, yo, we come from the same place. I love your work. Let's do this. And then the owner's cooking steaks for you.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he is re-energized because of the crappy situation that he left, which hopefully bodes well for us. All right, Mike, this Bill Belichick situation. And by the way, it's behind the curtain. We'll talk about some of this stuff today. Some of it we won't get to. We appreciate you guys being here, however you're accessing it via our digital content. I came home and I saw something last night where people were like, I can't believe this. And I know we talked about it briefly at the end of the show yesterday. But I'm sitting here last night and I said, he's a cheater. We have to admit, whether you are a Patriots fan or not, that he bent the rules. So much so the NFL fined him, fined his organization multiple times. And now at the end, when he's supposed to get in the hall, we should all be okay with him being a guy that lived in the gray. I just sat there last night and kind of went, maybe I'm seeing this wrong, because the resume says, yes, he's a Hall of Famer. But if this was anybody else who cheated, would you instantly be putting them in the Hall of Fame? And that's kind of where I'm at with the Belichick thing. I get the credentials, but if I told you, look, he cheated, he's got to wait a year. Pete Rose waited a lifetime and still is not in, right? The number said Pete should be in. Obviously, he broke the rules. I just think if that is the situation with Belichick, then, Mike, you got to look at this and say, I'm cool with him not getting in. And the reason why is because he is perceived to have broken the rules numerous times.
Right. Now, look, the problem with Spygate is we never got the full story because the NFL destroyed all the evidence. I mean, you can literally look it up. There's nothing left for anybody to go over if you wanted to do a deep dive, write a book, you know, other than just, you know, talking to people that were there and getting anecdotal evidence. So,
and Mike,
you know,
real quick, why would they, and for those who don't know, because we've discussed this on the show, why would the NFL do that?
Yeah, because it was probably pretty damning. I mean, why else would you, anytime, you know, we're not, you know, conspiracy nuts, well, some of us are, you know, and going back to Watergate, and the suffix started with, and that's where gate is applied to everything. Yeah, people that try to, you know, cover stuff up. Belichick, you know, you think he's going to spend a minute on something that doesn't give his team a benefit? That was the argument. Now, Deflategate, that seemed to me just a waste of friggin' time. That's Tom's preference on how he wants the football to feel. They're off by a few PSI. I mean, I couldn't really wrap my head around that one. And then the NFL overcorrected on that penalty with Brady, if you remember, with his suspension, because they never got it right with Spygate. But it is something. Look, it's a valid point. My only beef is, who the hell are football writers to be doling out morality lessons? In case you're wondering, there are 5 coaches who all got in on the first ballot Hall of Fame. Don Shula, Vince Lombardi, George Halas, Bill Walsh, Tom Landry. Pretty elite company. And none of those guys ever crossed a line. If there was, Halas would try to beat your brains in. Landry was looking for every advantage. He brought computers into the NFL. But you're right, Carl. On some level, Belichick, you treat people like shit, it's going to come back. I think it's more than just Spygate. It's karma. I just don't like the fact that these writers, you know, all of a sudden these are the guys that are the morality experts. That's my only beef. Because even if you take away Spygate, it's still 7 Super Bowls, 5 as a head coach and 2 as a DC.
Yeah. Look, I would ask this question too, if you wanted to really get into, all right, and this is what we don't know. How many of his 31 playoff wins that came at the benefit of some kind of advantage or cheating?
Right.
How many?
Well, that's just it.
We don't know that.
When you're caught.
Correct. We don't know that. And that's the other thing. So you say, well, he's got 31 playoff wins. It's more than any other coach. Any coach that Mike just mentioned. Yep. How many came at the expense of him doing something or his staff doing something to give his team an unfair advantage and broke the rules? Nobody can answer that. So it's those things that you go, man, you know what? Yeah, he did all this, but I don't know if I'm going to put him in. And by the way, what do you make of and Dede? Bill Polian? I think you guys, we were talking about this last night. Bill Polian apparently came out and said, I wasn't sure. I don't know whether or not I voted for Belichick.
95% sure.
How could you not be sure? And then, was he the culprit? Oh, is he the guy behind all of this?
To your point about why they destroyed all the evidence, I think that if you kept that around, you open yourself up to more scrutiny as to this is not just an isolated incident, it's a widespread thing. Probably. So in destroying all that evidence, you essentially say that, like, all right, we're saying right now, this is the last time this has happened, this is the last time we're going to acknowledge this is happening, and we're going to wipe our hands and be done with it. The Polian thing is just so damning because there's no sort of uniform set on a piece of paper checklist box standard for the Hall of Fame. It's 50 people in a room. They all have 5 votes, 20 to 50 votes total. So you have some guys who maybe want Belichick to get in, but they're not going to vote for him because they want somebody else to get in and think it's going to be a sure thing. So it's just so much just bias and subjectivity when it comes to this whole voting thing that, like, the polling thing, for example, opens it up for a couple to one. Like, you might need some younger heads in that Hall of Fame voting room to begin with. Some people who can tell you without any doubt that they knew who they voted for and not 95% and give you that bullshit about that one. And then two, just open up the process and make it uniform to where it's like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is what the standard is. This is what this is for every single person. So it's not like this 8-hour drawn out debate where you get in there and you mention a guy's name. Take it to the player hall of fame like Chris Carter, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, great stats," but he was a dick. So we're not going to put him in because he was a dick. Or Terrell Owens, Hall of Fame stats, but he was a dick. So we're not going to put him in because we're going to make him wait. So just the polling thing opens it up to the fact that, like, this is still such a extremely flawed process.
J-Day, what's your thoughts, bro?
Polian, Day-Day, real quick, I'll just jump in. Polian got beat by his Patriots and felt maybe they got screwed over.
He did.
So maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know.
He did. Yeah. Look, that's where I get back to the doubting about the cheating. That's what I'm talking about. Whether we caught him or not, maybe Polian had those hard feelings for a long time. Maybe him and Dungy or all those coaches there were like, look, they knew we were going to do some stuff that nobody else knew we were going to do. And they end up winning the game. Maybe behind closed doors, those conversations were had, but now it's coming out. Go ahead, Day-Day.
No, I was just going to say with the polling, the polling thing, it is very, telling for him to go back and forth on the first. It was 100%, then it was 95. To me, that he told on himself right there, by doing that. But as far as Belichick himself, Carl, I ironically, just like you, this morning, I'm working out and I'm saying, all right. Here's what I'll say. If you are in the mindset that anyone in MLB who was associated with the steroid era and was not elected into the Hall of Fame because of their ties to that era, because that's considered cheating, right? Then you should feel the same way about Bill Belichick with Spygate. To Mike's point, Deflategate, I'm up in the air on that. I mean, it's a ball. Who cares? All right. But if you have the mindset that, man, so what? Those guys did what they did and whatever, and then you feel like they should be in, then you should feel the same way about Bill Belichick. But if you feel like cheating is a reason for someone not to go into any particular Hall of Fame, that should go across the board. I think people need to relax. Bill Belichick is going to go into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
They're not going to keep him out for no extended period of time. He probably won't get in. He's obviously not getting in this year. I would not be surprised if he gets in on his next ballot. So I think people need to relax. I think it was a lot of overreaction. Oh, my God, this is a travesty. You all are committing the ultimate sins by not putting this man in. The man cheated. The team was fine. It is what it is. And if you feel like, again, you feel like baseball Hall of Famers shouldn't be in because they cheated, you should feel the same way about Belichick.
Yeah, and let me say this real quick about Deflategate. Look, deflated football is easier to catch. You ever watch an NBA game?
That's true.
It's very true. And in the NBA, before they start the game, ref will hand the ball to the captains. Yeah. And those guys will bounce the ball and they'll roll it around and they'll check it out. And the reason behind that is if you've inflated a basketball too much, it's going to come off the rim. It's not going to fall. You're not going to get shooter's rolls. It almost has to be that perfect weight. The reason why these guys touch it and go, yeah, I'm cool with that ball. Okay, let's go with that ball. There's something to that. I'm not going to dismiss it. I do agree it was not the severity of Spygate. But if I'm allowing my receivers to have an advantage because my ball's deflated a little bit and it allows me to throw it wherever I want if I'm Tom Brady, that gives you an advantage. It's the reason why they got fined, even though it's a lot lesser offense than these other things.
But I think they overcorrected. They didn't do enough on Spygate, and I just looked it up. Now, again, you got to go with the source, and this is from the Boston Globe, and I just had another article from the LA Times. It goes back to the AFC Championship game in 2014, and ultimately the NFL investigation concluded the balls were properly inflated for the second half of the game. There were one of 11 balls was uninflated for the first half. I know, because it's the Patriots, you don't give them the reason. My thing is, Goodell realized the court of public opinion, they screwed up everything so badly in the first case.
Agreed.
They overcorrected on that one. And if you go back and look at it, the NFL, not only did they not examine the material, according to this article I'm reading from back in the day in 2002, the evidence was basically destroyed at the Patriots facility by the NFL investigators. So basically, it was so bad that Goodell didn't want you to know what they were doing. Right, so to Carl's point, I'm coming back. Yeah, I mean, Spygate, like I said, we'll never know. But why would a coach do anything? Why would a guy waste time unless it was not to get an advantage? Just like Michigan with what they were trying to do with stealing signals.
All right, so that was 2000 and what, Mike?
2002
is when that went down.
Yeah, that was the 2002 season. So the videotaping, the walkthroughs of the teams trying to find signals. They said NFL says it might have started as soon as when Belichick got to New England in 2000.
All right, and the reason why there's no other proof is because there were no iPhones, guys.
Right.
There were no iPhones. So I'm just telling you, whatever guys would have had on their phones or were sending you information, there would have been a digital footprint. There wasn't any. And the only evidence was in the building, which they destroyed. I just think we got to rethink about this Belichick thing and not to Dede's point, not be all outraged. First of all, I'm not a Patriots fan. Sorry. I always thought after that happened, Mike, there was always suspicion. Every Super Bowl, every playoff run, Brady went to like 13 AFC championship games. I mean, give me a break. I know they won a lot, but it's like, dude, are they this good or do they have some kind of unfair advantage? So all of that became a question. But at the end of the day, you're right, Dave. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame. All right, real quick, we got to address this, man, because I know we're running late, and we'll get into it today. Mike, I know you have some thoughts on the Hawks and the general manager.
Yeah, they were on Steakhouse. Ansi Saleh, our general manager, went on a steak show, and we played some of the audio because we were focused on Stefanski's press conference yesterday with Matt Ryan. I just didn't get the, sense of urgency about what we're trying to do for this final second half of the season at the trade deadline. Day-Day's been of the opinion we're just going to go for the youth movement, and the process will continue. Now, good news is we can be Oklahoma City, but how long do we have to wait to be that? Because, nobody comes out of the box ready to play basketball. Even the Europeans take a couple of years. Ant-Man is probably one of the quicker guys to develop. There's a couple, SGA, I should say. But so what are we doing? We're not going to make a go for it, Carl. We're not going to try to improve at the deadline. That's a bit disappointing. We're going to be in the plane, it sounds like.
It feels that way. And look, I just don't know how you continue to sell this. I mean, you make a move to trade Trey, it should be for improvement. Not to take a step back, right? That's at least what should be the selling point. Yes, we're moving on from Trey, but we're going to be better because of it. I'm not hearing that. I'm not feeling that right now. All right, I know we'll get into that today. Lots of stuff, man. Coaches, movement. So the Browns' job is filled. That leaves two jobs. Raiders, Cardinals, still open. We're trying to figure out who's going to be our general manager. We'll certainly talk more about Belichick with you guys. And whether, look, Mike, I don't know, because I think it's harder here in Atlanta. If we were in Memphis, maybe it's a different feel. When they come back and beat us in the Super Bowl the way they did, there's a bias here, right? There always will be a bias.
Right. No, our good friend Ross Tucker put it out there. And again, like I said, I mean, Carl, you touched on it. You can be a turd, okay? But I do think, if you live by the golden rule, if you treat people like shit, it may come back on you. We know people in the media. I mean, on the way up, they were, treating people like shit. So on the way back down, guess what? And that is the golden rule. So Belichick, you reap what you sow, some would say. But like I said, I've sort of dismissed the Spygate thing. But as Carl brings up, there's so many elements to it. It's been 23 years. Got to go back and re-examine it. And guys like Bill Polian might be privy to more stuff that we're not aware of.
Correct.
Even if it's sour grapes.
But now's the time to share it. I mean, 20 years later, here's the time to say, hey, here's what we actually knew. What's up, Daddy, before we get out of here?
I know you got before we go, I just wanted to give because the comments, these guys are hilarious today. But Mike, you're catching a lot of love, man. They're saying you're looking fresh with your cut. Ty Jones says that's
Great
from
clips, by the
Phoenix.
way. Man of the people. That's a $17 haircut.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you said that because Ty Jones was like, Mike, are you back in the hood for haircuts, or are you going to Supercuts to get the Kirk Cousins special?
The Kirk Cousins special.
That's what it was.
He should.
On Monday. Right.
Yeah, he should have a special for like $5. All right, man. We're going to talk to you guys today at 2. Appreciate y'all being here as always. And by the way, if you have questions, comments, send them. A lot of times we have chances and opportunities to answer those on the show. All right. We don't have time here, but if you're like, yo, what is up with this or that? Let us know, man, and we'll answer it on the show. All right, fellas. Guys, thanks for being here. We'll talk to you guys at 2 on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.